Welcome to the Single H Show presents Transparenting. My name is Joseph Mills, and today on Transparenting, we are going to look at November 20th, which was the National Day of Remembrance. It's a Transgender Day of Remembrance, and our worship center had the opportunity to share in a gathering, the first of its kind at our church, but one that Single H and I have attended multiple times, that has been sponsored by the North County LGBTQI Plus Resource Center and other groups. And we decided to mirror that work and give an opportunity for individuals within the service area of our worship center a chance to sit and be with their thoughts during this day of Transgender Remembrance. Thinking about Transgender Remembrance Day, it is an opportunity for individuals to sit and acknowledge our transgender siblings who have either been murdered or committed suicide over the past year. Unfortunately, because of stressors, because of acts of violence, our transgender community specific faces a lot of fear within their lives over their own safety. You've heard this conversation weekly through Single H on this podcast, and we've talked about everything from bathroom assaults, primarily being against assault towards the transgender community, as well as individuals that struggle so much in their identity journey, especially in the reality of their worry of being accepted because of their transgender journey, that there's dear souls that are never able to become comfortable within their own skin, and they find themselves in moments that they make a hard choice, a hard permanent choice, because of the stressors they deal with in their identity journeys. So it was a blessing for us this past week to open the doors of our worship center to allow individuals to come in to share their feelings, to share their journeys, to process what they are feeling, both on how to be allies for our transgender friends when they find themselves in these very dark moments, as well as our transgender community realizing, hey, here is this worship center that cares, and hopefully presenting a reality that they are not alone. Today, I am going to share with you one of the speeches that was given that evening. It was a message shared by Grace Thomas. Grace Thomas is a transgender female who we at Transcended Media have a very great blessing of knowing, having a great blessing of having a connection to, and Grace blessed us with a very honest, vulnerable, and real message about what our transgender siblings deal with throughout their lives, and why that some of our transgender siblings suffer within these moments of violence, and unfortunately why some make a permanent solution to the stressors that they have been dealing with. So today's Transparenting is going to present Grace's conversation. So please enjoy this conversation. We'll have the podcast end with Grace's speech. So that was the Single H Show presents Transparenting for this week for the Single H. My name is Joseph Mills. Please enjoy Grace's presentation, and please have a fantastic week.
Hi, my name is Grace. I identify as a transgender woman, out as trans for 4 years, living publicly in Fort Mill, South Carolina for the past 2 years. My pronouns are she, her. I'd like to offer a reflection for 2025's Transgender Day of Remembrance. Early in my journey, I happened to be on Facebook, and I can still picture the trans young adult smiling with her dog next to her recently purchased car as she was about to embark on a new chapter of her life, only to continue reading and discover with grief that she had taken her life and there would be no more pictures of her expanding story and life. I visited this week tdor.translivesmatter.info/reports. It's a website that keeps alive the memory of trans individuals whose lives have been taken from us, and learned the sobering reality that as of September 29, 354 transgender people around the globe that we know of have been lost to us through violence or suicide. Most of those have been in the United States and South America. While on this site, I took time looking into the eyes of Tiara Love Torrey Jackson, who was shot and killed just miles from my house less than 60 days ago, wondering why. I did the same with Blake Sturm from Roanoke, Virginia, who took his own life in early September, mourning that he could not feel his own worth under the weight of a culture that pressed him to see himself as broken and evil. I'd like to begin this reflection by asking us to close our eyes and take a long moment of silence, lamenting the incalculable loss of precious people who were loved by God, but whose worth became invisible to themselves or to others simply because of who they are. Please lament with me that this happens at all, much less the hundreds and thousands of times each and every year. Would you close your eyes? And as we begin this moment of silence, let's take a deep cleansing breath in through our nose and fill up our entire chest and body cavity. And let's breathe out slowly. And let's take this next moment of silence to remember and to lament. As we come back, let's again take a deep cleansing breath in through our nose and out through our mouths. No one truly knows the reason that someone takes their life or another human being decides to take another's. But there are clues. A president and a government that declares that I and my fellow trans siblings don't exist and don't deserve to exist, that needed medical care can and should be withheld, that our presence in the military, in schools, in public life should be opposed and expunged from the record, that we should be outed and shamed wherever possible. That's a clue why trans lives are lost and trans people suffer needlessly. A Supreme Court justice who is presented with evidence of the harms of reparative therapy, a therapy that asks gender and sexual minorities to see themselves as broken and evil, with promises of change that never come, leading to hopelessness and shame. This justice wants to remove bans on this therapy, dismissing the harm and offering the empty consolation that if it goes bad, well, you can just sue for malpractice, even as you grieve the death by suicide that grows so dramatically for those exposed to this kind of therapy. That's a clue. a majority of the Supreme Court and several state legislatures who sanctioned the refusal to grant gender marker changes on identity documents, saying it's no different than reporting the location of your birth, which is about like saying that forcing someone to wear a Star of David in Nazi Germany is no different than requiring them to wear a name tag. That's a clue. The pastor, by no means unique, who preached while I sat there that all trans people are pedophiles. Well, maybe not all, he said, but most. And then proceeded to tell the assembled congregation how disgusted God is with every lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and queer person, and how hell is made for us, and that loving us in any way that promotes compassion or understanding is a perversion of Jesus' command to love our neighbors. That's a big clue. When a majority of our political and religious leaders choose quite vocally and cruelly to question our very worth and right to exist, no wonder individual trans people suffer to the point of hopelessness, and others are emboldened to act forcefully to inflict harm on us, either through exclusionary laws or outright violence. What can we do? I think there's much. I would ask us to learn, to use our mind and hearts to imagine a more compassionate world, and to make room for trans people in your circle of friends, the same way Jesus made room in his life for those that others, most notably the religious and political leaders of his day, felt deserved no room. Make room for us. For example, invite your family and friends to see Wicked Part 1 and to put themselves in the shoes of Elphaba with her green skin and imagine what it's like for non-passing trans people to show up in public. Imagine you are Prince Fiero as he looks past Elphaba's skin to see the person inside with all the same desires and capacities for genuine connection as any human, and how his genuine curiosity for a moment helps her silence her desperate need to defend her very existence, determined to be that person of royalty who actually dares to see the person in front of you and love them. Do that for the trans people you meet. Indeed, for every person you meet. In a word, outdo one another in showing honor, not scorn. So asked Jesus in Romans 12:10. Use name and pronouns when you know them. And if you can't, because you've been told or believe that this jeopardizes your relationship with God or with yourself, then at least adopt the old mantra that if you can't say anything good, don't say anything at all. I'm not asking you to betray yourself or your God while you're figuring this out. Conscience matters. I am asking that you don't betray your trans neighbor either, that you do for others what you would have them do for you, that you would show the respect you would want to receive. Visit tdor.translivesmatter.info/reports and take a moment to look at even a few of the names or the pictures of the 354 trans people who have died by violence or suicide around the world in 2025 and mourn their loss. Jesus always looked with compassion on the people he met, never contempt. Don't laugh at trans or queer jokes. Don't validate cruel or scornful comments either by silence or by feigned agreement. Instead, consider asking if the person speaking actually knows any trans people. And if you know some, speak about what you know, being careful not to out them without their permission. Read books or listen to podcasts authored by trans people rather than to stereotypes espoused by those who've obviously never met the people they speak about. For example, Congresswoman Sarah McBride's book, Tomorrow Will Be Different, or Paula Stone Williams' book, As a Woman, both deeply impactful for me. Most importantly of all, make room for trans people in your life. Make friends with trans people. Let yourself care about a real person who is different from you. It's a lot easier to push back against a culture of exclusion when it's impacting someone you know and love. My invitation is to use this Trans Day of Remembrance as a starting reminder to imagine life through the eyes of a trans person so that you can make your corner of the world a safe and inviting place for all of God's children. God bless you.